Good morning. I'm not really in the mood to do Felicia's journey right now. But I don't want to talk about my health. I'm fine. I feel a lot better. I slept through the night. I ate my breakfast, took my pills, all the things. I'm gonna have some coffee in a little bit. But I thought I would talk about something else. Online, I go by the name Zapno Mapcase. If you've seen it, you know that it's a long word starting with an X, and it's hard to pronounce unless you look at it. It's actually really easy to pronounce. And I've explained here and there where it comes from, and some people, believe it or not, have actually gotten it without me having to tell them through the years. It's fairly infrequent, but I will sometimes get the people that are like, hey, and I'll tell you why. Because Zapno Mapcase is Harpo Marx. This is a good book. I've read this a bunch of times, and I'm probably going to reread it again soon. But later, fairly late in his career, he went to Russia, just by himself. I'm not sure if it was after he'd gotten involved with the Round Table or not. And this is what it looked like in Cyrillic. I know everything's backwards. So it's basically Zapno Mapcase. It's not the full word, but in the 90s, when I first went on the internet, that was the name I chose for myself. And it stuck. I had that name for 30 years. And, if you see that name with just an X, not an EX, because Harpo, in Cyrillic, it looks like it's spelled with an EX. If you see that name, it's probably me, but not always. And I was just using my graduation picture as a bookmark. I was not as heavy back then, obviously, but I was still big. I'm in the middle. It doesn't focus very well, unfortunately. That's Bohei Kim. And then on my other side is my friend Laura Amador, who lived on my street. I have not talked to either of them for a long time. Although I just heard from the woman who got me into my gastro, used to work with Laura, and she's doing fine, and her mom's fine, her dad's fine, everybody's fine, everybody's great, and that was good to hear. But yeah, I've been using Zapno Mapcase since the 90s, and every so often I'll get somebody to say, hey, Harpo Marx, and I'll be like, yeah. It's been a good 10 years since someone has recognized it, though. And it's always a dude, and it's always someone about my age. Never a boomer, which is weird, because, I guess even boomers were a little young for the Marx Brothers. But yeah. This, I'm not sure how much of this he actually wrote. They always had their ghostwriters. I'm sure he just dictated to Roland Barber his life. I'm not sure if Harpo Marx was technically illiterate. I don't think he was fully illiterate, but I don't think he was as lettered, perhaps, as other people. And strangely enough, that was a claim Marion Mead made in her biography of Buster Keaton, that he was illiterate, and nobody had ever, as far as I know, nobody had ever claimed that before. So I don't know how to take that kind of thing about Buster Keaton, but I think it's fairly well known that I don't know how well known it is. I don't know if it's just something that I heard somewhere, so it must be true, or if he could read and write, but at a sort of lower level than adults normally. I mean, when you're in show business, I suppose. When you're in show business in the 20s, there's, and especially something of the anarchic humor of the Marx Brothers, where you don't really need to learn a lot of lines, especially if you're Harpo Marx, you don't have to learn any lines. There are recordings of his voice online. First of all, for Monkey Business, when they first sing in the barrels where you don't see them, the loudest, flattest voice, I believe, is Harpo's. And there's a couple of things, little interviews, one where he's like honk honk, and and it's, you know, his voice sounds just like his brother's. It's nothing unique. His accent's the same as his brother's. So, I mean, Harpo Marx sounds exactly like Harpo Marx should sound. You know, he didn't have like a super high voice like they say some of the silent actors had. Although I think in some cases that was actually meant to hurt their careers rather than tell the actual truth. I think John Gilbert, his voice, I don't think it was that high. It might have been higher than expected, but I think that was somebody trying to get rid of him, but I don't know. It's been a long time since I've read old Hollywood gossip. I have a lot of books in reserve waiting to read about this kind of thing, but, you know, so many books, so little time. I have more books in my Google Drive than I'll ever live long enough to read, and I keep adding to them. The subjects are varied and wide, because that's the whole purpose of my life. We all make our decisions, who we want to be, what we want our life to look like. And for my life, I just want knowledge. That's all it is. I'm the scholar, if you will. The pursuit of knowledge is the point of my life. You know, if I could, I would want to know everything. Obviously, we have a very finite life, and mine is even more finite now, and I won't have the time to know even the tiniest fraction of anything, let alone everything. But the pursuit is the thing. If I ever achieved perfect knowledge, then what? Then I'd be finished, right? You know, that's how many times have we seen this story? When we get what we want, we don't want it anymore because we get bored. We need novelty. So, as far as that goes, the pursuit of knowledge is a pretty good life goal because it can never be reached. I mean, I guess some people have like a set up thing, like I want to know this, this, and this, and then they take that into their careers and they do fine. I don't have parameters of what I want to know. I mean, there are some things I'm not interested in. I'm not interested in sports. I'm not interested in, you know, whatever, cars. You know, these are major things that, you know, a lot of people are very interested in. And in my pursuit of knowledge, I would skip over that kind of thing unless it had something to do with, like, nerd stuff or whatever other stuff I tend to like. You know. So, I have a good foundation in that because I read almost constantly as a kid, and I watched all the old movies, and, you know, you can actually pick up a lot from fiction, especially, like, historical fiction. Not always, it's not always accurate, but you can pick up some stuff. I have been babbling about nothing for about 8.5 minutes, and I think I'm going to leave it here. Things are getting better. I dealing with my own mortality, dude, that, it's not easy. It's not something you can just deal with in a day or two. It's not something you can just deal with in a week. I'm not used to this. Just like, it's not depression. It's nothing like that. It's coming to terms with the fact that I'm going to die younger than I thought. And possibly painfully. But it's also the idea that I might not have to deal with Alzheimer's. You know, I might not get super decrepit. I mean, I'll get frail before I go. But it won't be for years and years and years. Like, if I live to be in my 80s. Maybe I won't have to go in a home. Maybe I won't have to depend on somebody who's abusive. These are things I need to tell myself, I think, in order to get by every day. Okay, actually, now I'm almost done with my time. So I'll just say goodbye and not talk about unpleasant things so much. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.